Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is William Hyman, your host, and this is Just Force 911, where we look at how our public officials do things or not do things. Hopefully, they do them right, but they don't, so that's why I'm here. Anyway, one of my subscribers sent me that a violation of the oath of office from a public official, if broken, should be a felony. I agree with that. Along with getting rid of the thin blue line, the blue shield, and scumbag cops. So, cool. All right, so subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, hit the like button. Thank you guys for the comments. Thank you for the subscriptions. It's going crazy. It's getting really fun. It's going to start even getting more fun. So as we get more and more we can do. So, this comes from a via Israel from We the People University, and he has a update on the update from the 65-year-old that was attacked by a sergeant who we found out was rather happy with his work that he did. So got him in hot water, second degree what is it when you beat somebody? Anyway. So let's get to the video, guys. Go over to Avira's website. Tell him I sent you guys, and subscribe to him. You'll like his information. Oh, also, he has a ebook that you guys want to get. And I don't remember if he charges for the ebook or not. You'll have to check. But it tells you about policing today, and it's really a good information. So go check it out. Let's get this started.
That violent arrest changed him forever. The 62-year-old was on his way home from Oregon after meeting his newly born granddaughter. He pulled into the parking lot of Terrace View Park to rest during his 12-hour road trip, a decision that led to a violent arrest where he thought he was going to die. Hinton has filed a federal lawsuit saying there are systemic failures in the sheriff's office and the county when it comes to keeping citizens safe. The lawsuit also claims that Sergeant Hinton was actually involved in a previous excessive force complaint 3 months prior to this incident, a case where Judge George Fearing wrote this about Sergeant Hilton, suggesting, quote, he works as a law enforcement officer not to serve others and benefit the Spokane community, but to intimidate and dominate.
Well, we have another update for you guys on this particular case of the sergeant who was working for Spokane Valley Police Department, but he was employed initially by the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. For you guys who may not be up to date with what's going on in this case, I'm going to replay the video for you guys if you missed it. But before I do that, I want to read a chat log that was being held between the dispatcher and the sergeant in this case, Sergeant Hilton, right after he attacked Mr. Hinton. Let me read this for you. Well, starting with Sergeant Hilton, he types to the dispatcher, well, that went south fast. And she replied, just had to get that last hoorah in there, huh? That's what the dispatcher said. This is all while Mr. Hinton is being checked out by medics. You know, American Medical Response, who cleared him to go to jail when he should have actually gone to the hospital. LOL, Sergeant Hilton replied to the dispatcher. And then again at 12:05, the dispatcher sent Sergeant Hilton another message. Glad you are all right. I'm glad you are all right. Did he start fighting with you? Yeah, he was no person, said Sergeant Hilton. What does that mean? He was no person, but I think he may have learned a lesson. This is all what Sergeant Hilton is typing immediately after the fact when he just really attacked Mr. Hinton. Okay. And then the dispatcher goes, oh, I'm sure he did learn a lesson. LOL. Then the sergeant replies yet again, wait for his booking photo. And then she replies, oh boy, I will. This just goes to show his mentality. He was proud of attacking Mr. Hinton. This was minutes after the fact. All right. Let me catch you guys up with the video if you haven't seen it already, and then we'll get to the update.
And we're about to show you body camera footage from that night. We do want to warn you that it is graphic. Kevin Hinton was arrested because he was in a Spokane Valley park after dark. Hinton told Spokane Deputy Clay Hilton that he'd move his car and find another place to go, but Sergeant Hilton wouldn't let him go until he showed his ID.
So I read it all the time down below in the comment section that identification is like a drug to police officers. And it is, but the question is why? Why would they go to such extreme lengths to get your identification? And for those of you who may not know, I'm sure most of you guys do, but for the sake of those who don't, the NCIC is the reason they do this. I want to read something really quickly. The NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center, is a computerized index of missing persons and criminal justice information and is designed for the rapid exchange of information between criminal justice agencies. Users access the NCIC computer located at the FBI headquarters through regional or state computer systems or with direct tie-ins to the NCIC computer. So what it all really stems towards is the fact that you're supposed to be entered into a system so you can always be tracked. Every traffic stop, every encounter, which lawfully is not every encounter, but in the minds of police officers, every encounter has to end with them getting your ID, whether you're breaking the law or not. Now, the law states you have to be suspected of committing a crime. We understand that, but that's not how police officers are trained. I don't think most police know the bigger plan here. They're just trained this way in the academy. Get the ID, enter them into the database. That way we can track everyone.
Hinton refused, and the situation escalated, and Hinton was pulled out of the car and struck several times by the sergeant. Hinton suffered several injuries, including several broken ribs, a concussion, and a punctured lung. More than a year later, Hinton is fighting for justice.
He shared his experience from that night with us for the first time in a one-on-one interview with Jordan Smith, who joins us in studio tonight with new details on this story, Jordan.
Yeah, Kevin Hinton, that violent arrest changed him forever. The 62-year-old was on his way home from Oregon after meeting his newly born granddaughter. He pulled into the parking lot of Terrace View Park to rest during his 12-hour road trip, a decision that led to a violent arrest where he thought he was going to die. How often do you think back to that night?
Every day. Every breath I take, kind of. I mean, and every time I lick my lips, I mean, it's just not going away.
Hinton says systemic failures led to his civil rights being violated that night.
You're under arrest. Get on the ground!
While in handcuffs, Hinton was evaluated by medics. They cleared him to be taken to the Spokane County Jail, not the hospital.
It was excruciatingly painful to get in and out of that police car. I literally thought I was dying. I mean, that was my thought at that point.
The jail refused to admit him, sending him straight to the emergency room.
It sounds as if the jail was the only responsible entity in this situation. I mean, outside of Mr. Hinton, because the paramedics, they came and they assessed this guy on the scene and they cleared him to go to jail. Now, let me say this about paramedics, seeing as though I was a paramedic, and when I worked in law enforcement, I also worked alongside paramedics. A lot of those guys are just friends and they're buddies, okay? Officers are friends with paramedics, paramedics are friends with officers, and that's the way it goes. So when medics show up to the scene and they take this quick assessment, when they get there, the reason it's so quick and careless is because the police officer tells the medic, hey, yeah, we got a guy, he was refusing, and it's a good conversation. Yeah, he's fine, take him in. And that's the way it goes. But once he got to the jail, you know, luckily someone there was like, hey, no, something's wrong with this guy. He needs to go to the hospital. So not only does the police department need to be held accountable, I would say those medics on that scene also need to be held accountable in this situation.
That's where Hinton learned several ribs had actually been separated from his sternum. His recovery process was agonizing.
Getting up to go to the bathroom was a challenge.
Spokane police investigated the incident and recommended second-degree assault charges against Sergeant Hilton. It was then sent to the Yakima County prosecutor for review, and 6 months later, no charges had been recommended from their office.
If that would have been you or I would have been in jail that night and still in jail. You know, he should have been relieved of duty immediately and dealt with accordingly.
Hinton has filed a federal lawsuit saying there are systemic failures in the sheriff's office and the county when it comes to keeping citizens safe. The lawsuit also claims that Sergeant Hinton was actually involved in a previous excessive force complaint 3 months prior to this incident, a case where Judge George Fearing wrote this about Sergeant Hilton, suggesting, quote, he works as a law enforcement officer not to serve others and benefit the Spokane community, but to intimidate and dominate.
It's time for some justice in this.
The Spokane County Sheriff's Office did not return our request for comment on this. Meanwhile, the Yakima County prosecutor told us they'd provide an update on where they're at this process in terms of getting charges out by lunchtime. We reached out again and never heard back. So a lot of moving pieces in this lawsuit.
And now the update.
We begin with a breaking update now on a violent police assault that was captured on body camera. An independent prosecutor is now recommending charges against a Spokane County deputy. KREM 2's Cody Proctor has the latest tonight.
Well, that's right, Whitney. We have been following this story since last fall, and today we got a big update. The Yakima County prosecutor announced today they're recommending second-degree assault charges with the aggravator of egregious lack of remorse, as well as false swearing charges against Sergeant Clay Hilton. Now, this all stems from an incident last August when 62-year-old Kevin Hinton pulled over at Terrace View Park in Spokane Valley to take a nap when he was confronted by the sergeant. When Hinton wouldn't hand over his ID, the situation escalated, and his attorney says Sergeant Hilton beat him to the point where he suffered 8 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a concussion. Spokane police later investigated the incident and found there was probable cause to charge the sergeant with assault. At that point, the Spokane County prosecutor decided to send the case to Yakima County for an independent review on the case. We spoke with Hinton's attorneys earlier this year about the incident.
I think it's obvious that he committed a second-degree assault. There is nothing that our client could have done to precipitate the beating that he received.
Now, at last check, the charges have not been filed as of yet. The Yakima County Prosecutor's Office says they expect Hilton will be arraigned in September once they are. This comes only days after Hinton's attorney filed a federal lawsuit against several parties, including Sergeant Hilton, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, and the city of Spokane Valley.
So the charges that Sergeant Hilton is facing are second-degree assault charges with an egregious lack of remorse. What that means is the second-degree assault charges carries a sentence up to 10 years in prison or a fine of $20,000. Now, the egregious lack of remorse means that a judge who's overseeing the case can actually sentence Sergeant Hilton more than 10 years, although the charge itself only has a max of 10 years. The extra charge of egregious lack of remorse allows the judge to go a little bit over that sentencing limit. And by the chat log, I mean, it's clear that he had no remorse for what he had done. He's also being charged with false swearing, and that comes with a 90-day period in jail with a $1,000 fine. Now, here's the second part. Let's see if these charges actually stick, and let's see if he's found guilty. And as I stated before, I was going to keep my eyes on this case and update you guys, because in the last video, I apologized to Mr. Hinton, not to be confused with Sergeant Hilton, but Mr. Hinton, because he actually wrote me in the email about this case, and I received so many emails and I did not see it. So therefore, I want to make sure I keep up with this case and update you guys. And hopefully, if anything, the pressure that the people puts on them, they will go ahead, charge this cop, because he clearly should not be a police officer, let alone a sergeant. Always record the police, always know your rights. With that being said, We the People University, signing off.
Okay, guys. So I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. A violation of the oath of office by a public official should be a felony. And a scumbag cop that is probably going to get away with this because of his blue line affiliation, the blue shield that they have that wraps around them, and that he's just a scumbag. So more than likely he'll get away with this. When are we as the public going to stand up and say, no more, we're done with this? These scumbag cops need to go. And we need to hire people that want to do this job, because evidently they don't. They're on a power trip, they're on an ego trip. they're just out there to do as much mayhem and damage as they can. The Spokane citizens are going to have to pay for this clown's stupidity. Maybe you guys are okay with that. I know down here, I'm not paying for this anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. That's what's driven me to get on the internet and start doing this. I am sick and tired of my taxes going to pay for stupidity from our officers. And you guys think you got problems up there? Try coming down here. This is like the Wild West. These people are just out of control. So anyway, guys, have a good day. Make sure you reach out to Avira Israel with We the People University. Tell him I said hi. Check out his ebook. I think he actually wrote a new hardback too about policing. You might check that out. Tell him I sent you. Subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. Smash the bell icon so you know when I put out a new video. You at least get one every day, if not more. But guys, have a safe one, and good luck out there.